Over the last year, we've seen several high-profile cases involving black men being killed by a white person, from George Floyd to Ahmaud Arbery, and right now, jury selection is underway in the Daunte Wright murder case. Now, views on race and justice are central themes in the questions that attorneys are asking potential jurors. Some questions include, do you support the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you believe black people are unfairly treated in the criminal justice system? Have you participated in racial justice demonstrations? Now, those questions are meant to tell whether jurors can fairly judge the evidence according to the law. So we have a jury expert joining Morning Rush, Robert Swafford, founder of Strike for Cause Jury Consultants. Thank you so much for joining us, because this is a question that has really been on my mind. I mean, even since the George Floyd case, and especially with Ahmaud Arbery. Why has a Black Lives Matter question become more and more common in jury selection?
Well, one of the things you always have to remember is that both sides are trying to win. And people make decisions when they sit on juries based on their worldview. They're not making decisions based just on logic. They're making decisions based on whether they sympathize with one side or the other. And so if you are on one side, you are going to be asking questions such as, have you participated in a Black Lives Matter movement? You're going to be asking questions like, have you posted about Black Lives Matter or for racial justice issues? However, if you're on the other side, then you're going to be asking questions like, have you posted on social media things like Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter? So each side is trying to find out who are the bad jurors for you so that you can eliminate them.
Right. So what does answering yes to that question about, the Black Lives Matter movement, do you agree with it or support it? What does that say about a potential juror?
Well, if you think about some of these high-profile cases, it's going to say whether or not you're going to tend to sympathize with the person who was the victim. Are you going to sympathize with the person who was the perpetrator? And in the most recent cases, where you have somebody who is African American, who has been either wrongfully arrested or, in the worst cases, shot and killed. In those situations, are you going to identify with the police officer? Or are you going to identify with the person who was killed by the police officer?
So ideally, then, they're looking for someone to answer that question as no, they don't have a view. Is that right?
No, because the thing is everybody has a view.
Right.
So there is no, especially in these high-profile cases, there is no one who is unbiased or someone who's not prejudiced. So each side is trying to win the case. And so it is a process of elimination. You're not selecting jurors. So it's the people who are left after each side has been able to get rid of what they consider their worst juror. So the people, and by worst, it doesn't mean worst in the sense of someone who can't be fair. It means worst in the sense of the person who is worst for your side of the case. And so if you're a criminal defense lawyer in the Ahmaud Arbery case, for example, when I say the Ahmaud Arbery case, the case in which Ahmaud Arbery was the victim, if you are a criminal defense lawyer in that case, you are trying to get rid of the people who are saying, yes, I support Black Lives Matter. If you are the prosecutor, you're trying to get rid of the people who are posting things like Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, or people who are going to tend to blame victims. It's the same with the Potter case. If you have somebody who is saying, well, most of these cases wouldn't occur if the person who is the victim had just complied. If you have someone who has that view, then that person is going to be less favorable for the prosecution and more favorable for the defense.
So it really is no mystery then why this process can take so long, because finding impartial jurors is really difficult, as we're talking about. But so how do attorneys know whether juries can actually be impartial?
Well, it's a myth that there is something called an impartial juror, because the nature of being human is to be biased and prejudiced and have no insight into the fact that you're biased and prejudiced. And so jury consultants and the very best trial lawyers know that. So they're not trying to get a quote unquote impartial juror. They're trying to get a juror who is favorable for them. And so the best you can hope for in terms of the process is by both sides doing their best to eliminate their worst jurors. You would have the people who are I would say the least partial that you can get. But in terms of the idea of there being some blank slate that's going to rationally apply the laws to the facts, that just doesn't exist.
So, Robert, we have about 30 seconds left, but I have one more question for you. Is there some type of vetting process that takes place behind the scenes? Because I assume that someone can easily say, no, I don't believe in the Black Lives Matter movement, or I don't support that, but maybe like their social media or something like that may say otherwise. What is that process like?
Well, any time that we can get a hold of the juror cards prior to trial, then we're doing incredible social media research. I mean, you can find all kinds of stuff now on your potential jurors. And that's why if you have a supplemental written questionnaire and you write the question, instead of saying, do you support the Black Lives Matter movement, you write the question, have you posted, agreed, commented in support of that? Then you can actually go check and see if the person's telling the truth.
Interesting. Okay, Robert Swafford, founder of Strike for a Cause Jury Consultants. Thank you so much for joining us.